Veterans Villa is helping U.S. veterans live better lives. I absolutely love this project. Kim Cooley first brought this project to us a couple years back, and we featured it a couple of times on this program over the years. Joe and Brandon, welcome. Please dive in when you're ready. Thank you so much today.
Thanks, Jimmy. So this is us. This is our standard disclosure. It means that everybody should consult their attorney or their accountant before they invest in OZ space. So I want to explain who Tocqueville is, and this is going to take me a minute. So Tocqueville is a traditional registered investment advisor. We manage about $8 billion in assets. We work as a team. I work very closely with my business partner, Peter Sean, who has great investment experience and served as a banker. He was a partner at Lazard for a number of years. And we look at each one of our investments very closely, and we're the determining team that elects which investments go into the portfolio, which don't. We work with Capstone Impact Investing, and Capstone is really an expert in OZ space. They have been involved for 5 years. I think, Jimmy, you know them. They can answer almost any question that we have, and they have been very, very helpful. It's led by a fellow named Al Puhala. You can easily connect with him on LinkedIn. You mentioned Kim Cooley. Kim Cooley was generous enough to introduce this property to us, and we ran from there. And we're also introducing Brandon Sockwell, who, along from his smiling face here, he is a former Green Beret in the U.S. Army, and we're happy to have him on the scene in Colorado Springs. So why would you want to invest with Tocqueville Capstone? Well, number one, we put our own money side by side with your investment. But number two, we look at the QOZB, the underlying business, thinking that there are many of our competitors that have stellar track records in the real estate business. They're all strong. They all present great buildings, and they build very, very attractive communities, and they can produce track records that illustrate their ability to generate a reliable stream of income. They've moved into the OZ space, but they're primarily real estate developers. We are primarily investors. So we're going to be looking at the underlying QOZB, which is really the second or third derivative of OZ investing. You know, when you're looking at OZs, you want to make sure that that business can generate a phenomenal rate of return, and the laws have permitted that. That's going to take us an hour or so to explain. So anybody that's interested in that, you can call us. We'll be happy to talk to you about that. The track record for Tocqueville has been built on 2 projects that are, one is in Minnesota. It's a Veterans Affairs Service Center. And the second one was in New London, Connecticut, which we're just completing. That's renting up now. It's fully leased. So those 2 have set the stage for our project in Colorado Springs. The Colorado Springs project is about 250 units with 2 service buildings. They're huge. They're 20,000 feet each. And the intriguing part of this investment will be focused on those 2 buildings that are adjacent to the residential units. The residential units will be targeted to serve the veterans in the community. Brandon's going to tell you about the population in Colorado Springs and how robust the community is. But really, those 2 buildings will be contoured to either servicing veterans for therapy or some other, maybe childcare, something like that. But they're going to generate significant cash flow over that 10-year period. And that's the attractive part of that investment. So Brandon, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm acutely aware of our time constraint. So would you please explain the benefits and the attractive qualities of our project in Colorado Springs?
I will. Thank you, Joe. So I'm Brandon Sockwell. I'm part of the development team for Veterans Villa. I'm local to Colorado Springs. As Joe mentioned, I spent 8 years in Army Special Operations before getting into real estate development, the last 5 of which were here at Fort Carson in Colorado Springs. So very familiar with the market, very bullish on the Colorado Springs market. At a macro level, the Springs consistently ranks as one of the best places to live in the country. It's affordable, great quality of life, growing quickly, but there's also 5 military installations here and a growing defense tech and aerospace industry. So the submarket that we're targeting, being the veteran and active duty communities, is sizable and completely underserved. There are 84,000 veterans in Colorado Springs, each month, 240 service members that finish their service here choose to stay. And many of us have unique housing requirements. I just finished volunteering out at the Warrior Games out in California, which is basically the Paralympics for the veteran and active duty communities. It's a great reminder of the sacrifice that many of my colleagues have made, and 27% of veterans are service disabled, and many require or prefer ADA compliant housing options. And this project will provide that. There's less than a 1% grade on the site. All the 240 units are ADA compliant. And then Joe mentioned as well the importance of fostering a sense of community through transition, providing access to service members to ensure that that transition is successful. This is something that's really important and that the veteran community needs and deserves. On the active duty side, our project geographically, we're within 15 minutes of 4 major military installations. There are 43,000 active duty service members in Colorado Springs. The 2 largest installations, Fort Carson and Peterson Space Force Base, are often at capacity for on-base housing. So military families that move here have 10 days to find housing. They're forced to choose between a lengthy commute or subpar housing adjacent to military bases. It's something myself, my teammates have experienced firsthand. It's unsatisfactory. And this is a tenant population with really strong housing allowances, $1,600 to $2,400 a month in tax-free housing stipends. And it's a largely recession-resistant tenant population. Lastly, I talked a little bit about the defense tech and aerospace industry here. There are 100 of those companies in Colorado Springs, 111,000 employees. And many of these employers require cleared talent. So they want folks that have a secret or TSSCI clearance. It's the reason that 30% of the employees at these companies are veterans. And we're located just south of a 1,600-acre commercial development called Peak Innovation Park. This will have 30,000 employees that build out, many of which are veterans, and all of which will need housing. So the Springs is a great market by itself. Our target market is sizable. This is a project that they deserve, and we're uniquely positioned to serve the community based on product that we're delivering, where we're located geographically, our knowledge of this market, and our integration with the community here. So we're really reverse engineering the commercial and services component of this project to meet the needs of our target market. So really excited to be a part of this project. I found out about it and actively sought out a role with Joe and his team, and I'm excited to be a part of this project.
And we're excited to have you, Brandon. While you're speaking, I've put up the deal overview so people can get a glimpse of what we're trying to do here financially. It's approximately $100 million deal. We have raised about 65% of the capital required. We are very interested. The call to action for everyone on this call is to give us a call. We're easy to find. We'd love to talk to you. We can't get into the weeds of the deal on this type of call, but we'd be happy to spend however long it takes to get you comfortable with that. And that's really about it. Do we meet your timeline, Jimmy? I know we're racing here.
No, you met it just perfectly. Thanks, Joe. We actually got a couple more minutes. I've notified our next presenter that we're running a couple minutes behind schedule, so I want to give you the full allotment of time. Joe, what's the best way to get in touch with you and your team if any of our investors on the call today are interested in learning more about Veterans Villa, helping U.S. veterans live better lives, possibly making an investment, requesting subscription docs? How can they get in touch with you?
So I've thrown up on the slide my phone number. It's my business phone number and my email. Brandon is also easy to get a hold of. We have a fairly big presence on LinkedIn, so many people are using that. They're more comfortable using that. But my phone number is 212-903-0300, which is fairly easy to remember. And we have plenty of materials. We do have because of our role as an investment advisor, we do have fairly strict guidelines for our compliance department on what type of information we release. So we have a bundle of information that we'd be happy to share with people after they sign an NDA. So that's just our protocol, keeping things tight and organized. Speaking of
Very-
keeping things tight, we do have a sister organization called Capstone Analytics for those people that are on this call that have the need for compliance overlay on their OZ investments. You might want to look into them. They're easy to find as well. It's Capstone Analytics. They're on LinkedIn as well.
Perfect. I have just linked to Joe's email address and phone number in the chat. So if anybody wants to get in touch, Joe, what's the minimum investment amount that you're accepting from investors for Veterans Villa?
A piece that amounts to $1 million. So if you have 2 or 3 people that can cobble together $1 million, that's where we draw the line. We have very great success with people who have significantly more than that. And most of our investors have some connection to the military. They've either served or they live in Colorado Springs and they have a spouse that serves, but it resonates very, very well with people who understand a veteran's desire to stay in the area where they have been stationed or deployed from.
Perfect. And one final question, and then I'll cut you loose. This particular subject property here is the development in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Are there other Veterans Villas communities in the pipeline elsewhere in the nation?
Well, as you mentioned, Kim Cooley before. Kim has 3 or 4 under the banner of Veterans Victory. There's one in Daytona. There's one in Iowa. There's several that are on the drawing board. We really want to make sure that this one gets done. We did the one in New London, Connecticut, in a very disciplined sniper fashion. We focus on one project at a time. So I would say that maybe next year we'll have something lined up. Once again, focusing on the B, the QOZB. And to give you an idea of how eclectic our selections have been, we have looked at QOZBs that contain a movie studio, recording studio, things of that nature. That got a little bit sidelined by the writer's strike in Los Angeles. But those businesses turn off huge cash flows. And if you can combine that with the tax benefit of an OZ wrapper, the returns are really eye-popping. And partially that's why we're putting our own money in, because we love those returns. And we want to stay focused on our own cooking, so to speak. So please give us a call if you're interested in this. Thank you, Jimmy, for giving us the opportunity to present on QOZ Pitch Day. And Brandon did a great job. Welcome aboard.
I agree. Well, thank you, Joe, and thank you, Brandon. Great to see you two gentlemen. Again, I've linked to Joe's email and phone number in the chat, so please feel free to get in touch. Thanks so much, gentlemen.
Okay. Brandon,
Thank you.
Before you go, Brandon, would you like to give your email as well?
Yes, it's Brandon, BRANDON @2-FIVE.co. And I can throw that in the chat, Jimmy, if that's appropriate.
Yeah, put that in the chat if you will. Thanks so much, Joe and Brandon. Appreciate your time.
This is 17 pages. We'll be happy. You can distribute it to anybody that wants the deck. That's fine.
We will. We'll do that. We're going to put this deck and a lot of others on our webpage after the event. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.